Very good. One moment here. I am doing well, my friend. Doing very well. And today we're going to be talking about the entrepreneurship and, should you be local? Can you do something nationally? Can you do something globally? We're not global yet. So there's better experts out there on that stuff, but this is what we're going to talk about today because I'm getting some of these questions and I'm going to help. I'm going to help. I'm hoping that people will get today like, okay, I get it. Because for me, it has a lot to do with some other thoughts that determine what you're going to do. Okay.
Right.
Um, One moment. All right. So let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about obviously every week is entrepreneurship. We're also going to come back to your thing last week. We were talking about products, bringing product to the marketplace, the time frame, how long does it take to bring a product to the marketplace?
Right.
What does it feel like? What is it? We're creating physical products. We have an e-commerce product site company. We have a digital company, digital products. That is, I own a SaaS company. You own a physical product as well as you're going online. So we're going to be talking about that as well. And then, of course, because of time last week, you're going to talk about a product that you were designing and where you're at with it. And by the way, being that you just shared it with me, so I did not know before this call. I'll give you some feedback, and let's bring it up. And I apologize. I can't. My monitor is kind of further away. I have the Curve,
Right.
Samsung Curve, and good morning, Bert. But when I bring it up, I can see it. But when it's in the sidebar, I have a hard time seeing it. Good morning, Bert. Love to know where you're at with your stuff. By the way, too, some of the feedback that I got, we have a 52-week challenge. Just so that people understand that. The 52-week challenge is this. You have a whole year goal, but you got quarterly goals. So I don't want people to think, it's going to take a whole year, because this was one of the questions I had with a potential client for coaching. And I said, no. So I want to just explain that. You have a whole year goal. So if you're going to start a company, you're going to still start it well before the year. It's just there's a lot of things that have to be done. What we don't want is those people that say, I want to make $1 million in 30 days, because they are buying products thinking that they can do that.
Right.
Can it be done? It has been done. I had a mentor way back in the day. Unfortunately, he's passed away. His first goal was to create $1 million, and it shouldn't be all about money. We're going to talk about that today too. But that is a goal, right? So money is a report card. That's the way I always refer to it.
Right.
Money is a report card, and at the end of the day, he hit his goal in literally 3 months. So can it be done? Yes. I know of people. I know that you know of like Russell Brunson, made 7 million in 1 hour on a stage. I mean, imagine that. So once you start building your brand and you have a tribe, customers, right? You at that point, you have a reach. And we'll talk about that reach today, because that has a lot to do with today's conversation. Do you have a brick and mortar company, or do you want to go, more national? There's a lot of perks to both. I think there's more perks to the latter. Okay, so we're going to discuss that today. But here's the other thing. Can you have both? The answer is yes. Rightfully so. Okay, so, but before we go there, I got to talk about this too. It's called the Ascension. And know this, that I don't know where everyone is in their path. As far as even the 52-week challenge, you got to have that whole year goal. So when you're looking at a whole year goal, what is it? What is your idea? If you're already in business, what are the things that you can do that's going to expedite that growth? And we're going to touch base on that as well today. But let's talk about the Ascension, because this was a bad one or this was one that comes up with me when I'm coaching a client, and it is how to deal with haters and stuff like that. And I'm going to give them my feedback. We're creators. Would you agree that there are good times, there are bad times? Would you agree? I know this is a loaded question for you. Would you agree there's times that you go to the financial cliff's edge?
Yes and yes.
I get it too. Hey, you're not hearing feedback on my part, do you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, absolutely. You know, I mean, dude, you know, more times than you want.
Yeah.
You know, to get going, you know?
Yeah. So here's the deal with that. As an entrepreneur, do you remember the movie In Pursuit to Happiness? Will Smith was in it. This is why I hate that whole Will Smith that happened, because I had Will Smith up here, you know what I mean?
Right.
That just kind of like, but I could share something else with us. We could all relate to that, meaning, or learn from that, because it may take you a lifetime to, oh yeah, Bert, one of my favorite movies. It could take, by the way, if anyone has not seen that movie, I would highly recommend it, to watch it, just to understand struggle. You got to understand struggle. And we're going to come to the ascension here in a second, because this is where you can feel alone, right? And I'm not going to go into the movie. You got to watch it, but it was incredible. It reminded me of when I was getting into financial. There were so many things. I was never homeless, but there was so many parables in that movie. Like, oh my God, like that's me, you know? And it was incredible that way. And Will did a great job playing this. This was based on a true story. So if you haven't watched, you got to watch it. Sometimes you have to rewatch things to remember your why, because the ascension's going to be a tough one. Just like if you're going to climb Mount Everest, believe it or not, there's another one that is even, that people see this more. You're going to walk past people that did it before you that are dead, like legit. Matter of fact, on some of the maps, they have, I think this is bizarre, but some of the maps, they would look for this one gentleman with a blue coat. He was a marker. How horrible is that? How horrible is that, right? He was a marker, and somehow he's disappeared, but that's another story. So if that isn't like, imagine what that would feel like. You're climbing up Mount Everest, right? And we're all climbing our own mountain.
Right.
But imagine climbing Mount Everest. You got this dream. You got this, can't wait to hit the summit. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be the first in my family ever, right? By the way, I've never done it, and I'm never going to, so don't worry about that. And then all of a sudden, as you're going up, you're seeing bodies. You're seeing clothes shining through snow, and you know what's under there.
Right.
What's that going to do to your psyche?
Well, exactly.
So when you're building a business, I don't care if it's a business or your dream, you know, you're going to have haters. Matter of fact, you're going to have family members that's not going to get what you're doing. You're going to get friends, you know, acquaintances that, you know, you're friends, but you're not like daily friends. You're going to get those people. You might have people employed by you. Maybe it's your CPA. Maybe it's your an attorney or whoever it is. Maybe it's employees that aren't seeing what you're seeing and just don't believe in you. But here's the funny thing about that. Some people use that as motivation to make it. I would say, yeah, it's fine, but don't let that be your motivation. Your motivation needs to be your dream. Your motivation needs to be your goal. Like it's a map.
Well, that's just it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like when you originally set out your plan to do this, what were your goals? What was your mission? That should never change. I mean, like you can add to it, but the core should that's your drive, you know?
And you got to remember it. And I'm here to preach to you. Seriously, like it's going to happen. It's not even gonna like kind of happen. It's going to happen. You're going to have haters. And I mean, in every level, once you make it, you're going to have haters, right? Here's the funny thing about that. For me, my approach to this person was, you kind of remember, right? So when you make it, unless they apologize, you just let those people go. You got to let them go. You got to fire them. Let them go. If it was somebody working for you, fire them. If it's, you can't fire family, but you can distance yourself. And I don't mean, there's different ways to handle this, but you just got to remember that it is going to happen. There are some people that are not going to believe in your dream. So meaning someday, because only you with drive, and we're going to talk about time management a little bit too. And then we're going to go into the whole entrepreneur, which way do you go? But if you don't manage your time buckets or time blocking, that's what we call it. Time blocking it's so insanely important that if you don't do that, you're not going to win. So as long as you're doing all the things, financially, you're going to run into snags. Financially, you're going to be like, maybe I need to get backing 3:00 today because of another project. We're talking to a company for a hedge fund. We might get funding, right? So right. That's a big deal for me because, you and I have talked about it. And on some aspects, I never want to give a piece of my company away. And then on other aspects, that makes sense. So it just depends on how expensive the goal is as to what's going to determine that. If you can bootstrap it, it's the best way to do it. However, when you bootstrap it, a lot of times that's where those haters are going to come into because they're just like, oh, you're still doing that thing, right? So just know that's going to happen. And you got to laugh inside because you can vision yourself on the other side. They don't see that. But once you're there, guess what happens?
Oh, man. Then they really hate you. No, I'm joking.
Well, some can, yes. But right. A lot of them are like, it kind of cures the problem. Like, it's like, oh, look at Tai Lopez. I talk about that a lot of times. When Tai Lopez finally made it, watch this, and was getting on the news, and then all of a sudden bought up all these companies, then was on the New York Stock Exchange, wrote 3 or 4 best-selling books, is now getting accredited by who's the founder of Fubu? You guys probably know. Darn it, Damon John. Here's the thing, like now all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's not a fake. And then before you know it, those haters go away.
Right.
They can't hate anymore. Right.
Right.
I like this, as you know, you and I've done this a lot in the last 4 years. Build in the darkness. Like now, mind you, I always train and I'm always going to help. But what I mean by that is a lot of people don't see what you're doing. And then when it hits, it's like, holy, you know what I mean? So just remember to be more like that. Be kind of like Apple. Apple's never going to reveal what they're doing until they're ready to launch. So you got to be careful. Alrighty, let's talk about local versus national. Now, to define that, by the way, is what would be national? Well, Grub Guys is national. Well, technically the East Coast for us. Now, that is a product. It is also local. It is also brick and mortar. So it's a hybrid. It's a real product. I have a client right now. We actually have a new version of his product that's national. Okay. It's not necessarily even brick and mortar. Nobody can come in and buy it. It's ship-based business. So that's called e-commerce. So e-commerce is a great way. So if you're selling shirts, if you're an artist and you're selling things online, that is a great way. You could still have brick and mortar though. So it's a hybrid, right?
Right.
But then you have somebody like, and I'm going to explain, this is where I come up with the epiphany of which way do I go? And it's going to come down to this. But let's say somebody's passion is selling flowers on a corner street, like a shop. I mean, they wouldn't do it for me, but there's people that's what they want to do, right? If that's your passion, then do it. But believe it or not, you could also ship that. If you're able to scale, you could ship that. So you could maybe start a product locally. Now you have one. But if your dream is to travel the world, is that a smart business to have?
Right. No.
it's first of all probably not going to fund it. Number two, you're going to be pretty much balled and chained to that business. That's just what's going to happen. What's your take on it? So you have Loud. It is a local business. You've got a lot of local events that help your brand.
Right.
What does that do for you? I know you can travel with your brand though. So give us a feedback a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can travel, but I would say it's definitely regionally. It's not nationally. I mean, like if you draw a big circle, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, maybe Rochester. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of.
But do you feel a little grounded? Like can you leave your business for 6 months?
No.
Okay. So for me, it was very important. By the way, I want to also debunk something. There is a thing called scale, but I believe, and many people are doing it, that you could have $100 million business without this giant office space and 1,000 employees. Like it can happen.
Right.
And there's multiple people that have done it. Is it harder? Yes. But more importantly, it's the design in it. Do you have an affiliate program? Are other people helping your business grow that allows you to build a $100 million business? I know we have goals that are pretty lofty, right?
Right.
So how are you going to achieve that though? If let's say you're working from home, believe it or not, it's achievable. And here's what I kept thinking that brick and mortar, and unfortunately I ended up doing one, as you know, GeekLink. And it went against everything I believed in. And sure enough, it was very time intensive. We did something over the weekend. It makes you think like,
right.
This is a lot of time. Now, mind you, we're doing it for branding reasons. So if there's a period of time that you do it for, I get it.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, and that's the whole thing, you got to put your time in, and I don't care what it is, I mean, any product, and some of that is just like you said, brand recognition or doing something to get your name out, get your word out, that kind of stuff,
Without a doubt. Now last week we were talking about product, and you actually, so we create products. So let me sum that up real quick, and then we're gonna go a little deeper. We got 10 minutes more. Let me sum that up. So brick and mortar versus national, it comes down to this, or even international, but it comes down to this. What is your dream? What is your goals? What is your financial goals? What is your social life going to look like? What is it that you want to do? If you want to live in multiple places, it's going to be very hard for you to have a brick and mortar. If you want to own a restaurant, you just know that you're going to be there for, 7 days a week, like possibly, right?
Right.
Especially today when it's a lot harder to find employees, it's a lot more difficult to that. So you got to really know, kind of like the climbing Mount Everest situation, right? Wouldn't it help your psyche to know all of the challenges you're going to face, including seeing dead bodies on the way to the top of that of the summit? Like you saw it, like you know what you're going to get into. There's always going to be those things, though, slips, falls, stuff like that. Oh my gosh, it's a little harder to breathe than I thought it was going to be. You're always going to have that.
Right.
But the more you can figure out what the obstacles are, even with your competitors, the better you're going to be. We're doing it right now. We had somebody that kind of ripped us off. We were thinking about hiring this individual. And unfortunately, I showed him a little too many things, and he launched a product, which we're going to talk about yours here in a second. Ours was, he actually saw it though. And I know that where yours was, they thought of the idea because of the time. So go ahead.
So, our product that we showed, we showed a guy and he ended up taking it. On this side of the coin, we saw a need in the market, and let me say, like when electric bikes first came out, there was no, on the mountain bike side, it was plastic on the bottom and if you hit a tree root or hit a rock or something like that, you were going to break the bottom of the bike. And I did.
Oh, wow.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? So I'm like, we need to do something to beef this up. And we developed a skid plate for, which is like a bash guard basically for one Pacific electric motor. And we worked on a prototype and we got it and it worked great. And while we were right in the middle of getting ready to release it, that company changed the motor design so our skid plate wouldn't work, and then also put a bash guard on it. So like from
Oh,
Gen 1 to Gen 2, they made the right upgrades to it. So
wow.
right. So just in a matter and we did it pretty quick. It was probably in a matter of 2 months.
Isn't
We
that
were already
something?
outdated. And
By
so
the way, there's
we never brought it to market.
this is why I love digital space. This is why I love digital, because what I mean by that is tech. Because today, especially if you're a product creator, especially if you're an infopreneur, you can create products fairly quick today, right? Whereas if it's a prototype and physical product, obviously there's time involved.
Oh,
There's
we had to design it. We had to test it. We had to make sure the amounts were correct. Then we had to figure out how, you know what I mean? Like, how could we scale it? Like injection molding, how are we going to make it? You know what I mean? Like getting all the processes lined up to do it. And you know what I mean? To not be able to do it because, version 2, they corrected it. I mean, they saw the flaws too,
I'll be darned.
Right.
Okay. Well, they probably had complaints
Well, yeah,
because
no, for
remember
sure.
your best your best feedback is your customer. So, people that do it well, that ask the customer how was the service, how was the food, or you send a survey, or you mail it to them, or you do an email saying, how was your experience? Just recently, delivery was made, and they were saying that they were doing this cookout for these people that were coming to town. What did I do the next day? Hey, how did it go? They said, first of all, thank you for reaching out. It was amazing. They were raving, and you made us look good. So
Right.
it's stuff like that, those touch points that make you know what I mean? So I'm assuming that that's probably what happened, because you guys you're on the other end, right? So you saw the design flaw, you're there to fix it. But here's what I say. Now, mind you, you beat me to the punch by saying they redesigned the actual motor, because what I was going to say is your raging fans, though, the loud people that love loud and what you guys do, just like people love iPhone, but the actual iPhone cover for this phone is a lot more expensive than so there's other people that are just waiting for the new design. They're going to make a cover for it, right?
Right.
So my thought was, well, can't you still make it?
Well,
But if they redesign the motor
right.
to where it's built into it, then yeah, you're kind of screwed.
Right, exactly. And like Joe Tomasi just put, just still a number of Gen 1 sold niche product, like guys who 3D print the adapters for brakes and shifters. It wasn't a total waste, possibly. No, I definitely get that. And it's funny because like the 3D printing wasn't as prevalent as it is now. This was like probably 17. So like you heard about 3D printers, you know what I mean, and that kind of stuff, but they weren't,
Especially like today, they can actually legit 3D print a home.
Dude, it's crazy. You know what I mean? And so yeah, no, yeah, it might not have been a waste, but for us to gear up, we wanted to hit the whole market, not just.
Would you mind sharing what the cost was for your prototype? Aside the time, design, stuff like that. Was it a local person that actually created the product for you?
Yeah, no, it was me and a friend of mine who actually owns a molding business, and who also rode. So we kind of developed it together, and he was going to do them in a shop.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you didn't hire like a
No.
company. I got you.
Right,
Because
right.
prototypes can cost, you know,
Oh,
they
it
can be
can cost a lot. You know, what I mean, like it was a little bit of time. You know, I mean, it probably cost us a couple grand, but you know, um, yeah, but it wasn't. You know, it could have been a lot worse. You know,
Let me ask you this. Did any product come out of it? Could that product morph into something else to where it's not all lost?
no,
Okay.
honestly, not really. You know,
Hey,
because
it happens.
it was. I mean, like it was such a dramatic change from Gen 1 to Gen 2.
Okay.
Uh, just how they did it. Like, yeah, we could probably modify a little bit, but I mean, it already comes with it now. So, you know,
Got you. Got you.
right.
Well, at least it goes to show you, if anything, it's validation that, you know, we call it a think tank, and um, uh, uh, Disney calls them Imagineers, right?
Right.
There's a whole team of Imagineers at Disney,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's where I like to be. Like I like to create, um, and but just know this: out of that lesson is the lessons out of it. So next time when you come up with a product, you're going to be able to probably get there faster. Does that make sense? When you go
Oh,
to
yeah.
college, you got to spend a lot of money going to college. This is your best version of college ever. It's called real time. Like you can't get better than this. Okay,
It's
let
called-
me bring this other question up.
yeah.
Injection modes. Oh yeah. Matter of fact, I have some experience with. We had a tooling thing, so this company was going to get this, a box, but you had to buy the tooling for them to now produce this box for you. Now we found a different method. Just know that the process, you know, there's these processes. This is another reason why I would highly recommend a lot of you to just start out as an infopreneur. If you have expertise like you could teach people how to create a bike shop. You could teach people how to do a lot of things that you do, right?
That's right.
That creates the revenue that does a lot of things for you. First of all, it's life changing, and it can also change or give you revenue for a product creation.
Right.
I did this with flipping, right? So flipping helped me create certain products and develop a company because of that. All right, let's move on. So lessons learned on that. I really thought that maybe there was some hope there that would still stick. So I would like to leave it with this. So I would highly recommend people look into, you know, nationally, you know, if you're able to create. So what would that look like? You know, a store, Grub Guys, for instance. If you go to grubguys.com, there's a perfect example of e-commerce, right? That's one of our products. So it's e-commerce. What did we have to do though? First of all, you got to solve a problem, right? You can't be completely just like another company. There's got to be something better. It's got to solve a problem. It's got to be to where it can form a tribe, right? Man did this. This is a product specifically for a guy.
Right.
But guess who's their number one subscriber? Wives.
Right.
They buy that as a gift for the husband for Father's Day, you know, whatever. So anyway, so just remember, if you're doing brick and mortar, just know your ripple is your effect. So you're limited to your reach, and you just have to remember that. The other thing about brick and mortar, unless you got it totally managed, and it is possible, if you have it totally managed, a lot of times brick and mortar doesn't allow you to work from somewhere else. Whereas if you have an online business, right? Either you're a course creator, trainer, speaker, or you have an e-commerce, you can work anywhere where you have an internet connection, especially if you're outsourcing. So speaking of outsourcing, next week, I want to talk about this next week. Next week, we're going to talk about outsourcing your life. I'll tease you with this. I know of a gentleman right now that he goes and actually gets remote work as well as other work, lets them know that he's working from home, and then he outsources it. And how crazy is that, right? Like he outsources that work. So other people are doing the work. He manages it though. And then he submits the work. And so we're going to talk about outsourcing two different ways, outsourcing your life as well as outsourcing, meaning how you can scale, even if you're working from home. That's obviously the new trend right now. Matter of fact, there's people are saying, where are all the workers? Guess what? Matter of fact, I'm going to borrow something. It was Taylor Scott. Remember her? She was on a while back.
Yep.
She's a realtor, but she was also somebody that worked in the in the restaurant business. And her and I were talking about, I forget which restaurant, but she says, and I mentioned this, and she's like, well, I'll tell you why. It's because it's the most like, now I know some people that take care of their people very well. So this is not the exception of, you know what I mean? This is some places. They were always treated like they were indispensable. So now all of a sudden the pandemic hits and now all of a sudden they're like valued. Well, you didn't value me when I was there before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you got to really value the people that are helping you get where you're going. If you have a company, be team oriented. And I know of a lot of people that own businesses that's what they do. So it's not everyone that does it. Just know that that's part of the problem. They weren't treated right by customers and the owners.
Right.
And guess what? They got a taste of a new life and they're like, I don't want to go back to hell. Like that's a problem, right? So
Right.
How do you solve that? How do you solve that problem? Is there another? No. So if you have a question before we leave, feel free to ask us. Next week we're going to talk about outsourcing. And for those that even after you do have a brick and mortar, you know, how do you expand your reach? How do you do that? And if you're somebody that's got a product idea or you're a course creator, meaning knowledge, now we're going to go into the nuts and bolts of, okay, let's get this thing launched. Because my bet here, and this is part of the 52 Creator Challenge, is we want to, within the next 30, 60 days, match your income with your employer. Okay? Match your income with your employer. So that's for next week. So let's recap today. Only you are going to know which is going to be, you know, do I do brick and mortar? Depends on what your idea is. Depends on what your dreams are. If you want to live and travel a lot, probably not the one. You know, you may want to now think about having an internet-based business. 2, you got to realize haters are going to be there. You got to realize the ascension to success is challenging. Try to figure out, without constantly learning though. I know of people right now that they're still stuck and they've been stuck for 3 years. Like they're still doing the same mistakes over and over and over, or they keep talking about what they're going to do and they never do it. So you got to be careful of that. And then obviously once you define what your goals are and what your product is, where are you going to be? You know, if it's going to be local, does the local economy support it? If it's national, recognize that no longer matters. So, alrighty, we are 5 minutes over. Next week, we're going to go in depth on outsourcing and how you actually now take your idea online, even if you are brick and mortar. Are there ways like you have loudproducts.com?
Loudperformance.com.
Loud Performance.
Yep.
Perfect. Sorry about that. But loudperformance.com. So you are brick and mortar, but you're also entering into the whole e-commerce.
Exactly.
As well as like Grub Guys. I mean, obviously we do it.
Right.
Alrighty. I wish everybody well. One moment. Let me take that off. Recognize real quick, just if you need a hub, meaning yourname.com, I just want everyone to know that you can buy the domain name at hostfox.com. You can launch your this is where it starts, folks. It's yourname.com. You can do it right there at HostFox. We got you covered. If you need help, feel free to reach out to us. We can help you understanding what it is that you're going to need for your venture. By the way, that's 100% free, just so you know. And also, for those that haven't done it so, feel free to join our group. We do things a little more in depth there than just when we go live. Also, you'll get notifications when we do go live. So, all right, if there's not anything left, D, thank you.
All right, bud.
And we will see everybody next Wednesday. Peace.
Yep.